A brief introduction. I am Kate Colleen Somble. My parents are Jack and Patty Colleen. My dad, Jack, is Aunt Teresa's favorite brother on the West Coast. If my father were alive, he would most assuredly be here at this podium and not me. But as others have said, I am honored that the honor is unearned, but I'm going to do my best to honor Uncle Blaze. I kind of feel like the little drummer boy. What gift can I give such beautiful, eloquent speakers today? It's a bit intimidating. I don't know about any of the other speakers, but I have been in a superlative and adjective crisis since I first was asked to speak. Where does one find the words to even begin to do justice to such a precious, precious man as Uncle Blaze? I actually had a few clever drafts written, but it just didn't feel right. And then I asked myself, as Blaze did, what would Uncle Blaze want me to say? And then it occurred to me, cabbage salad. That was the metaphor that I was looking for. My Uncle Blaze is famous for his cabbage salads, and he loved making them on site. And whenever we would have young get-togethers, Aunt Teresa would call and say, what can we bring? We would always say, please have Blaze bring this cabbage salad. And he liked to make it on site, and there was never a recipe. He would usually come with a head of cabbage, and then he would use whatever the host had on hand. And he loved to just stand in the kitchen with all the chaos going on and make his cabbage salad, and he would be, conversing and talking and making his salad. And we would say, well, what do you want to put in it, Uncle Blaze? Well, what have you got? And I would say, well, some lemon juice? Lovely, he'd say. Zucchini? Of course. Olive oil or mayonnaise? Well, both, of course. He was joyously inclusive in the way that he made his cabbage salad. And he didn't care about the vessel that he put it in. He would just set it out onto the table with a myriad of other meals. And the meal that was always eaten to the last spoonful was Blaze's cabbage salad. And it just made me think about, what would he want to hear from my family's perspective? What would he really enjoy sharing and having shared about him and his life? Blaze became Uncle Blaze on January 1st, 1970, and my siblings and I were fortunate to be at the wedding. I will never forget, one of the first impressions that I have of Uncle Blaze is his size. We're a small Irish clan. We don't have anybody, I don't think, above 5'6", 5'7" in the family. So Uncle Blaze always towered in a room. His presence was just physical. And yet, he was so soft and approachable and warm and genuine. The other thing that I recall as a young girl is Uncle Blaze's resonant voice. At their wedding, Blaze led an a cappella song of Let Us Break Bread Together. And he started singing it, and Teresa joined in, and many of their friends joined in. Kind of thought it was weird, but at the same time, his voice was just lilting. It was just beautiful. And that was one of the gifts that he was very generous with when we would get together, at family events. The Bonpains and the Colleens spent many holidays and family vacations together, and I hope to do many more, of course. My parents held him and Teresa in such high esteem. And that translated, of course, to us children. As we got older, we didn't really know a whole lot about, what Blaze and Teresa did when we were young. We just kind of heard some radical stories and salacious details. And, we really didn't know. But as we grew up, we started realizing, my goodness, these people live a very unusual life. I often wondered Why did Blaze and Teresa choose voluntarily to spend so many holidays with our family? I mean, they have oodles of accomplished friends and lovely people that they could spend time with, but time and again, they would drive the Southern California freeways hours and hours on holidays to be with us. I often thought that Colleen and Blaze felt like, adolescent hostages, that they had to come and see their weird, loud cousins again. But whatever the holiday, the Bompains arrived in their sticker-covered Volvo with sincere hugs and smiles for everyone. They made a point of greeting every person there, and we're a large clan, so 20, 30, 40 people sometimes. When they would get through with all the hellos, it was almost time to say goodbye. But we loved it. We loved our time together. I believe the greatest gift that we can give to one another, other than love, is our time. It's unknowable and it's finite. Today, as I reflect on Uncle Blaze's impact on our family's lives, the time that he and Teresa and the kids shared with us is so precious. At these family events, we always counted on Uncle Blaze's cabbage salad, of course, and they would give us an update on the significant social injustices that were going on in the world. And Aunt Teresa would always remind us about who we were supposed to be boycotting at any given time. My mother took these recommendations very seriously, and I don't know how many years we went without eating grapes in our family, but I remember grapes were a no-no for a long time. Throughout the 70s and 80s, Uncle Blaze by then had made his now famous appearance on Molly George. He had worked alongside Cesar Chavez and Dolores Huerta. He ran for political offices. He'd been arrested enough times that when he appeared on the evening news, it wasn't that big of a deal anymore. And Teresa did a good job, though. She would usually try to call my dad and say, Jack, Blaze got arrested again, and just so you know, you might see it on the news. She was pretty consistent with those phone calls when she wasn't in the tank with him. We were so blessed to have the downtime with Blaze and Teresa and our cousins. One trip in particular is worth sharing the details because it cements Uncle Blaze's superhero celebrity status in our family. It was around 1975, and Teresa and Blaze joined us at our very humble vacation getaway in Ensenada, Mexico, emphasis on the humble. My sister Alicia, who was 15 or 16, had received and brought with her a sealed love letter from her new boyfriend, Mark, who became her husband of 46 years. She wanted to read it in private, so she launched our family's little fiberglass skiff into the bay. Somehow, she lost an oarlock and found herself caught in a current that was dragging her towards a hazardous jetty at the far end of the bay. And thankfully, some of the locals on the beach recognized that it was Alicia, and they came running up to our little trailer where Blaze and Teresa and my mom and dad were out sunning on the patio, and they were shouting in Spanish, that my sister was in trouble. Well, thank goodness, Uncle Blaze spoke Spanish. He immediately recognized the danger of the situation, and again, without hesitation, he just stood up and started running down the dirt road towards the beach. Well, to get down to the beach, you had to make your way down this eroded dirt and rock cliff, practically. And Uncle Blaze just scaled it like it was nothing. And then, to get to the dangerous part of the jetty where my sister's boat was heading, he also had to traverse over these loose, like batard-sized rocks that had formed on an angled berm. They were ankle breakers, let me tell you. Again, we don't know how he did it, but he flew over those rocks, made his way out onto the jetty, these slippery, jagged rocks, in record time. It must have been a half a mile long that he ran. And just as my sister's boat had reached the tip of this jetty, and the big waves were coming and crashing up, Uncle Blaze, with one of his big bare arms, just reached down and grabbed her as the boat just was lifted up over and fell onto the rocks. And he saved my sister Alicia's life. and I will never forget that. Turns out she's actually one of the best of us, so you chose well. Uncle Blaze lost his glasses, he lost his watch, my sister lost a lot of pride, I think. But to arrive just in time to save her life is family lore. Now, I don't think he was wearing angel wings or a cape, but in my version of his memory, he definitely was. Uncle Blaze often gifted us with a song or two at our gatherings, usually following one of Aunt Teresa's Irish pub songs. But my favorite, hands down, was One Thought I Made Up. And I heard that it was being rehearsed a little bit earlier, so I hope that this isn't too redundant, but there's a particular lyric that I'd like to share with you in honor of Uncle Blaze. Join me if you know the words. Just one little verse. Yo soy el hombre sincero, de donde crece la palma. Yo soy el hombre sincero, de donde crece la palma. Y antes de morir me quiero echar mis versos de alma. Thank you. Uncle Blaze's genuine love of humanity and his consistent expression of that love, in whatever form, is his greatest gift to me and to my family. And he became larger than life as we became adults and understood the context of what a special man he is. Selfishly, I hope that Uncle Blaze would always be here as a grounding factor in our lives. Without him in the world, it feels a little less secure. When we got the news that he had passed, I just kept thinking in the game of tug of war, Uncle Blaze was a stronghold on the good guy's side. And I felt like we lost a true powerhouse. But no writing about Uncle Blaze should ever conclude on a sorrowful note. He insisted on living in joy, finding joy, giving and receiving joy in every situation. While I have many more fond memories I could share, I conclude my sharing acknowledging the joy he has brought our family for almost 50 years. He taught for us by modeling for us compassion, acceptance, fairness, reason, sacrifice, deed, resistance, unrelenting effort, and above all, love. With all my heart, I love you, Aunt Teresa. I love you, Colleen. I love you, Liz, all your children. And may we just continue to love each other the way that we always have. Thank you.